Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Seventh Rule. This is the second free-for-all segment of this Deep Space Nine deep dive. Let's just get into Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb score.
I'm going to say this was about like a 7.6. 7.6.
Anybody else have any guesses that may not know?
Before he said that, 7.4 was in my head.
I'll say 7.5.
Wow.
Oh, you
7.1. 7.1.
It's all
cover it.
Okay.
Well, the
it's a
Cirroc
10.
Lofton award goes to Cirroc Lofton. It is a 7.6.
Oh, wow. All right.
This guy is too good. That's why he gets the big bucks around here.
I'm good
Makes
on Deep
sense.
Space Nine. I'm good on
Yeah,
Deep
that's
Space
true.
Nine. Harder on the other one.
That's
you're
true.
not bad on TNG.
Yeah. I'm getting used to the scale now on TNG.
All right. So let's talk about we've all seen this episode a million times or so, but was there something that you caught today that you hadn't noticed before? And let's start with the coolest shirt on the block, Justin Weir.
Hey, everybody. I knew I was going to be drinking today because it's Cisco Day, so I wrote down.
Then
what I
let's
was
start
gonna say.
instead with no. I'm just kidding.
I'm going to stick to this. Happy Cisco Day. I'm so happy to be part of this day with all of you. I know Duet is an awesome episode, but Captain Pursuit, this is my favorite episode of season 1. It really is. Call Meany. He is my favorite Star Trek character. He's the everyday man. I see myself in O'Brien, right? He's always irritated.
Telling there. A little telling.
The O'Brien must suffer trope. It is as common as the holodeck malfunction trope. Like we see it all the time.
Yeah.
We don't see that in this episode. This is an O'Brien must win episode. And in the end, he gambled. He went against Starfleet and it paid off. How money is that? So yeah,
Paid
Very
off
money.
and money.
Yeah.
Both figures of speech in one sentence.
My honorable mention is Quark because he gave O'Brien advice. Well, not really. O'Brien kind of took it for himself. But then he went over to the next person and was like, hey, how's it going? How can I help you? What's your troubles?
Mhm.
And happy Cisco Day, everybody. Thank you.
Love it. Thanks, Justin.
Yay.
We also
Yay.
forgot, so sorry, we forgot the non-appearance mentions of the week. Did
Jake
anybody
wasn't
catch
in
this?
this episode. Jake wasn't in this episode.
Yeah.
So I think you guys mentioned this earlier. Ryan, you brought up the Quark brothers, and Melissa, you mentioned that that's the only time it was ever mentioned like that. And I want to point that out. It's the only name that I have was Rom.
Ooh.
Does that count, Homer?
Yeah.
But
I'll allow it.
O'Brien did mention that he
I
has
think-
a wife and kid.
Yeah.
Oh,
Exactly.
duh. Oh my. Sorry, Keiko, Molly.
Ooh.
Well, didn't Cisco say Keiko at the end?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't
That
catch
he's
that.
dressing
Your
down
wife will.
O'Brien?
Right. Yeah.
Is it your
I-
wife
Yeah.
or did you say Keiko? I
Good.
don't.
Also, Quark at the beginning said trouble with the little lady or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I guess technically could be Molly as well, because she is a little
That's
lady.
right. That's no good.
She's like a toddler. But
Ambiguous.
good stuff. Yeah, so Homer is Rom a Nam, being that he said the brothers. Quark.
Well, I think unless there's a brother we don't know about, it is.
Exactly.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Jason Oken, was there anything you noticed today upon your 700th viewing that you hadn't noticed the previous 699?
Sure. I have some things that are general and some things that are rather specific. In a general sense, I think it's maybe a little bit unusual for a Trek episode of that time, is just to have an A story. There's no real B story here, just an A story that goes right through, which is not necessarily certainly not how TNG ran for many years. So it was interesting to just kind of focus everything on the character of O'Brien and just have sort of the entire story devoted to his character, which was certainly different. So also on the global side, the story by credit and the writing credits with Jill Sherman. And she was a story editor on The Incredible Hulk. And we have the guest star who is in green. So that's, kind of a coincidence. And something more specific, which I thought was really kind of interesting. In one of the scenes when O'Brien and Tosk are coming out from whatever underneath the ship, they're doing the repairs, Scott McDonald hits Colm in the face with his foot. I mean, you can see it, and you can see Colm giving that look. What the hell? And then he continues acting, professional. Nobody else cut, and they just go right through the scene. I think it was just incredible to see that momentary lapse and then back into character and kind of going forward. So these are the things that I noticed.
I didn't catch that. I gotta see that now.
Yeah, I gotta see that too. It seemed like when Scott was recalling it that Colm probably got short with him a few times, and I wonder if that was because he got kicked in.
You got to take a look at the look that Colm gives Scott. I mean, look for that.
I know
1
that
second.
look.
He's like,
I know that look. I know that look.
That's fun.
Oh, that's great.
Well,
yeah, if you're guest starring on a show, guys, try not to kick the star in the head during filming. It's kind of.
It was only episode 5. He didn't know. He's like, maybe he's just in and out like a Next Generation. Allison Leach Hyde is here, and we are so fortunate for that. Was there anything that you noticed this time that you hadn't noticed before?
I noticed that scene where Tosk and O'Brien are walking through the promenade, and O'Brien's explaining what it is. And I realized this time, I've seen the episode so many times, that they were really also introducing the audience again to how this series works. And I thought they did it really, really well. Like that was, like we're here, the Bajorans are here, we're just helping keep things together. And I thought that was really well executed to wrap it up in the story and keep introducing the new series to people, because they might have missed the previous 4 episodes. And this was a quick way to get it done. And I thought it was done really, really well. So that was what I was really surprised by, and how well written and put together it was for being, we're right in the beginning. It didn't feel clunky. It felt smooth and entertaining. And I got into the show because of my mom. This is the one she watched. And I was actually with her last night, and I'm like, I have to watch this. I'm doing a review of it tomorrow. She's like, oh, I'll watch it with you. And like every so often she would just chime over here. She's like, I forgot how good this show is. I'm like, oh, yes, it is. So that was, and I loved the makeup. I thought Westmore did a fabulous job on it. So that was another thing that I was like reminded of. I'm like, Emmy nomination for it too, but it was really well done.
Well, thanks, Allison. Mom did good. Great stuff, Allison. Jed Thompson is hanging out here. He's ready to have some fun with us. What'd you notice this time?
Yeah, this was a lot of fun to come back to. I thought this was such a classic Trek episode, but painted with DS9. And so you had all these nuances that DS9 is great for. And one thing that I was underwhelmed about was this first contact with a new species, and it was sort of from a different part of the galaxy, and it just sort of fell flat a little bit. But aside from that, the overall flow of the episode was wonderful, and like what Scott said. I'm so sorry. Jason, excuse me. What Jason said about the B plot, the only B plot I could come up with was Quark's advice a little bit ish, but Colm and O'Brien there just had carrying this very wonderfully. You know, this is a enlisted Starfleet personnel who is doing first contact and on the job first contact, and I thought that was wonderful. I have one small nitpick, and it's just about Odo doing a decent job at being a picture, being a painting, and with really detailed frames, but just couldn't get the nose right. The Bajoran nose there, but yeah, and Scott McDonald's performance was absolutely wonderful, and I did a little research, and he put on a lot more makeup in future years with a lot more similar makeup, and so I was very impressed with that.
He was Guranaga. That's what Bashir would call him, and a Klingon and a bunch of other good stuff. Romulan. Anil O. Palat is also half Jem'Hadar. Welcome back. Good to see you, buddy. What'd you notice on this episode this time?
Yeah, I noticed two things. One is, I don't know if I read it somewhere or it's just in my headcanon, that the Dominion made Tosk for the Hunters. I was noticing like, Tosk kind of looks like a Jem'Hadar, sort of. He can turn invisible like a Jem'Hadar. It seems like the kind of favor the Dominion would do for, a compliant planet of, and the Hunters seem like they would be useful for the Dominion. So I just noticed that, and I was like, so in my head, every time I see him, I'm like, oh, he's sort of like a proto Jem'Hadar maybe, or something like that. But I don't know if that's true, but it works for my brain, I guess. And the second thing is, I really like O'Brien and Sisko, and I wish there was more of that throughout the show, because they really like play off each other really nicely. O'Brien is like, he clearly respects Sisko a lot. He's very, chain of command, but he can also push back. And I think I wish there would be more of that relationship throughout the show. We don't get a lot of Sisko and O'Brien, so. It was just a fun episode. Great building block, I think, for season 1.
Wow, that was a really interesting catch there. Allison just mentioned in our personal Zoom chat that Robert Hewitt Wolf himself stated that the same people who breed the Tosks as gifts to the Hunters breed the Jem'Hadar as well. Wow. Did not know that.
So
wow,
cool.
That's amazing. Well, Mai is live in Tokyo right now, and she's ready. Are you in the galaxy? Oh, those are a bunch of galaxies behind you.
Yeah.
What did you notice this time that you hadn't noticed before?
I went back and rewatched the original review of it, and what struck me about that, Aaron said, freedom equals choice, and I thought that was a really important statement that he made. And Cirroc also talked about how this resembled slavery to a certain extent. And I thought that was also right on point. Slavery's evolved in modern US and European stories. Today, it's not whips and chains, but it's profiling and preconceptions leading to hatred, racism, a lot of people not having opportunities and choices, color, women, single mothers, the LGBT community, so many more. The list goes on and on and on. I thought O'Brien's actions were an interesting metaphor for the right way to treat other people. He's an outlier because he doesn't judge, or he doesn't categorize. I like that. But my takeaway from this episode was that it's a clear warning to people of today, viewed through this lens from the future of it's a warning to continue to evolve. And I think that's interesting because it ties closely into what Sisko Day is about. It's about Sisko and the role that Avery Brooks played. I think with him doing that role, with the way that he was positioned in the show, ties into this because it's a clear message. One of his staff, this liaison to this entire planet, is a woman. He's a black man playing a person in charge of everything, and later he becomes a god. And I think this is looking back again through time and saying to us, can you get here? Can you evolve to here? And I really like that. So this episode to me was a big call from the future to continue to evolve and to get here. Those are my thoughts.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Mai. Loved it. Carrie Schwent is here. You've got something special saved for us today, but I don't want to ruin the surprise. Did you find anything this time that you hadn't noticed before?
A couple of things I noticed, and one thing my husband noticed. The thing he noticed is when they're all getting Odo and Kira and them are all getting shot at, and she sort of falls back on him as they're sort of getting down to like the floor. He got a little handsy.
Oh, I noticed that too.
Wait, really?
I blinked and missed it, and I had to rewind. And I was looking, I'm yelling to the screen, "Oh no, she's not your girlfriend yet. Keep your hands to yourself."
Well, I think it was accidental, but I was like, he just got a handful.
To have seen him after they like hit hit cut. I'm guessing the two of them were probably laughing their butts off over that. And and other thing with Odo that I also noticed was when Cisco tells him to take his time, going after O'Brien, and he starts to go like his usual pace, and then you can see him visibly slow down to almost a comic degree as he's heading toward the turbo lift elevator. And before my special thing, I will raise one question: is what in the name of the prophets are the weapons doing on the habitat ring? Why the habitat ring? I never noticed that before, and it sort of popped out at me. I mean, you would think there'd be better places to keep weapons than the ring where people sleep, just in case something happens.
Well, they used to be in the school, but we had to petition to move them out of there.
Yeah.
They go.
But the last thing is, I usually used to do when I first joined Seventh Rule. I did in honor of Garrett Wong and Robbie McNeil's Delta Flyers podcast. They do poetry for each episode. And when I joined, I did haikus for D Space Nine episodes. I do limericks for the TNG episodes. So today's DS9 haiku: Miles and Tosk bond. Tosk must be allowed to leave. The hunt continues.
That's a
And
good
I
one.
just noticed that I think I'm doing some sort of impression of the way Garrett Wong reads his haikus. The Delta Flyers podcast. That just randomly popped into my head. But thank you, Garrett, for the inspiration.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Carrie. Great stuff. Speaking of hiding weapons, Homer, where do you hide all of your, weaponry?
So Ryan, if I told you where they were,
Warhammer,
I'd have to move them. So I won't divulge. I was going to start with, I am Homer. I got a little frustrated in this one. And what I noticed that I hadn't noticed before is that there's this little bit when the hunter's talking to him, he's in his cell, about, did you tell them, or did you divulge secrets and stuff like that? And I'm thinking that I'm just thinking about how it might have been different, I guess, if he had been able to say, I just need to escape or something like that, and then all this could have been avoided. He has the honor, so it's not like he's going to take advantage of them. He knows what he can and can't do. So that just struck me a little funny this time, and that's all I have.
And you told it well.
No, I got through it.
Goldie Scott Jensen is here as well. Good to see you. What'd you think? Did you notice anything this time that you hadn't noticed before?
It hit me. I love this episode. First of all, this is one of my favorite season 1 episodes. Early DS9, like first half of the show, favorite episodes. It is one of those great bottle episodes, like everybody was saying. It's a good like DS9. If the Enterprise is wagon train to the stars, DS9 is Deadwood. And you have a lot of people coming into the town, and this was a cool. The stranger rolls into town, and a story rotates around an interaction between what O'Brien would probably be like the Undertaker or whatever. Somebody has to do all the hard work in Deadwood, whoever that was, that's O'Brien. But and he interacts with them and goes on his way. But what I pulled a couple things from it this time. I didn't. One of them was just kind of funny, so I'll save that to the end. But how scary a caste system really is. It's easy to look at Tosk and go, how noble that he's willing to step into this role and carry on this just brave tradition and kind of not rock the boat. And how horrifying that whole just blind faith to your destiny if you were born to do this and you were born to go through this circle. Like, how long has this been going on? We had no clue. We had no clue if this has been happening for millions of years with their culture, or if it's been going on for the last, 100 years, 10 years, or however long. It felt like a very extremely long time. So I thought that was kind of, it hit me a little bit different this time because, usually it's like, oh, it's so badass. He's getting away. And I hope he's still floating around now doing something, maybe he'll show up in some future Trek or iteration.
Hey, wait a minute,
also,
Scott. You have Tosk and O'Brien behind you, hand in
they're
hand.
being friends. They're happy.
They're
They're still
so happy together.
I got to leave my little Easter eggs for everybody all the time. See that?
I was thinking of the
There he
song,
is,
How
hanging out
Long
back
Has
there.
This Been Going On, when you said that, actually.
I see that. And the hilarious part that I listened to it with my good headphones in last night. It wasn't just the TV across the room. So you hear a lot of dialogue and you hear a lot of really great pauses between lines that the actors hold that just add a little bit more, like that quiet pause. And the part came in the beginning where we were finding out how much of a sleazeball Quark is, with it being literally written into the contract that these Dabble girls got to kind of do whatever disgusting thing he wants to do. And the funny part is that they say, she goes, it's right here in the Ferengi print, not down here in the fine print. It's right down here in the Ferengi print, like section 48, sub-level B3 or something like that. I thought that was a cool little bit of dialogue just tossed in there, that they would say, oh, yeah, down here in the Ferengi print. We find out more about Quark, obviously, as it goes along. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And like you said, Ryan, that transporting, oh God, that scene with that light and just how they looked a little bit more alien than alien. I love those costumes. I think the design is so cool. Like this whole episode altogether, everybody's acting, the makeup, all of it all across the board.
Those costumes and that transporter was remind me of like the 70s.
Very much a Doctor Who / the Red Dwarf type feel with a cool, just off the edge a little bit more alien than alien, which was very cool.
More human than human is also a great song. Thanks. Good stuff, Mr. Scott Jensen. Great job posing those two action figures behind you. Cirroc Lofton, do you have any final thoughts for us before we close out?
Let's see. Final thought. One takeaway was the word friend. In the beginning of this episode, O'Brien calls them friend. He says, I'm just trying to save your ship, friend. And for that reason, the friendship began. And he started to even articulate to Sisko. He says, I feel like he's a friend. And it just goes to say that it reminds me of how the power of friendship really overcomes so many different things. It reminds me of Jake and Nog's friendship, O'Brien and Bashir's friendship, just friendship in general, and how powerful it is. I think that's one of the great storylines of this episode, and how even in such a quick time, you can form that friendship, and it doesn't take long. Sometimes it just click right away, and it's like you've had known that person your whole life. I really like how they kind of elaborated on friendship. And then my last thing I'm going to say is Dax's line in this was I think we should skip the formal first contact procedures. And I'm like, it's the first person. and you don't want to roll out the red carpet or anything. And thank God they did send O'Brien, because let's say Worf was sent out on that first contact mission. It would have not been the best representation. Do not touch that. It might not have gone that well. So, Yeah, roll out the red carpet. It's the first time. It's okay. You know, have a couple of people meet him, put on some, you know, the dress uniforms, make it nice and special. I think that's fair. But thank God they did send O'Brien, somebody who liked him, because if it was anybody else, it could have been, you know, Kira might have even just cut him off really quickly. And who knows? So I just say we should go with the protocol next time. Always go with the protocol. That's my final answer on that. And otherwise, I did think it was a great episode.
Yeah.
I love hearing the backstory on Corey Allen that Mike McDonald gave us, and the method acting. And so, you know, there's so many gems in this. And, you know, on the rewatch, we get great Colin Meaney acting, great Scott McDonald's performance, and another batch of Cisco that it shows to be the wise kind of, you know, boss. And I love that he's able to be gentle, stern, lenient, but strict. It's like all of the above. So it's such a good spectrum for the, you know, character. That's my final.
All right. Sound like you were describing Melissa for a second there. Nice, but strict and tough.
Yeah, she's tough.
Yeah. All right. We got to run, everybody. Otherwise, Melissa's going to be pissed. She's like, you guys, we got to go. So thank you to Melissa, Justin, Anil, Jed, Allison, Jason, Scott, Homer, Carrie, and Mai for Cirroc Lofton, and myself and Mr. Aaron Eisenberg for leading the conversation. Thank you all for joining us. And until next time, always remember the 7th rule.
Happy Cisco Day!